Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us. A warm welcome. This is Football Then and Now, a nostalgic look at football, but we also cover the current goings-on in the beautiful game that we all know and love. I have got a returning guest, a man who spoke about Spurs' current plight down in the bottom of the Premier League. But on this episode, with Gary Ward, the host of Project Spurs again, but we're going to touch upon your memories growing up, following Tottenham, and nostalgia and stuff not too long ago as well, I'm sure.
Well, it feels a long time ago with the current predicament we're in. But yeah, I mean, as you know, Stu, I've been a wrestling fan my whole life, and I grew up really idolizing professional wrestling, and football wasn't something I really watched for a while. My dad didn't ever really live with us, so when he would come and visit at weekends, he would watch Match of the Day. And it was the only, and it would obviously be in the pub all day otherwise. So for me, it was only the opportunity to spend a bit of time with him. And I can remember sitting on my on the sofa with my wrestling figures while Match of the Day's on, and it was the only time that I got to sort of, quote unquote, bond, I guess. And that love affair of football then started to come. My dad is actually a West Ham fan. My granddad is a Tottenham fan. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he's the Tottenham fan. And as I say, my dad never lived with us. He lived in London and then into Buckinghamshire. But my granddad had always lived around the corner, so it just felt a bit more right for me and my brother to start following Tottenham. And I can remember watching the 1990-1991 FA Cup, and I can remember Gazza's famous free kick, and I was like, wow, that guy is amazing. And partly because his name's Gazza and Gary is, and people call you Gaz and Gazza, it kind of was like, oh, this is good. And then it made it even better that was my granddad's team. And it was even better that the cherry on top of the cake, I guess, was that we then won it. And I thought, this is a bit of me. I'll have some of this. Because actually, I was born in Fulham, so technically, it's crazy. I should be a Fulham or West Ham fan, but I ended up as a Tottenham fan, and I live in Cambridge, so technically, I should be that. But I grew up here. I've been here since I was 2, so it's very, it's one of them. But that was where it started. The affection for it started then. Obviously the 1990 World Cup was amazing to watch, and that's where my love affair of all things Italy started. And then Football Italia came on in the UK, which was just incredible. But yeah, Tottenham's been with me for a long time, and European football is a big thing for me. I absolutely adore like Barcelona as well. And but yeah, I can vividly still remember, I'm pretty sure one of the figures was Hulk Hogan. Can't think who the other one would have been. Maybe Macho Man. And that would have been the Hasbros. For anyone that is watching this, if you are a wrestling fan, they would have been the Hasbros. It would have always been them two. And I'd have been watching Match of the Day. And I was like, actually, I quite like this. I might start watching this. And then whatever it is, 35 years later, coached and dove loads of coaching, managing, playing, was a decent player, and now do sort of podcasting, and I'm on so many podcasts, and I cover Tottenham on my Twitter account, and I go to every home game, and it's just outside of your family, it's sort of the number one love, isn't it, really, for a lot of us?
100%. It's I'm football ahead of wrestling, believe it or not. People can't get their heads around that. You do so much of the wrestling. It's like, no, it's football. It will always be football. And I've traveled.
Yeah, for me, it's the same. To be honest, I haven't watched any wrestling for a good few years now. I'm out of it. I don't watch it. I'm not up to date with anything. I don't know anything that is going on. To be honest, I don't really. The only person I speak to within the wrestling circles is Eric Young. He's just a friend more than anything, rather than someone I was sort of agenting for. But football's always been my number one love. Wrestling was always my number one love, but it very, very early on, it was very sort of close between them. And football for me has just sort of taken over massively. And as I say, I've fallen out of love with the wrestling, everything wrestling, unfortunately. But at least I've got this that keeps me going. Unfortunately, it doesn't keep me sane, but it keeps me going.
Absolutely. When was your first game at White Hart Lane, Gary? I've got to ask you that. We're going into nostalgia.
Yeah.
When was the first game at White Hart Lane?
I'm pretty sure I know the game. I think it might have been like 94. So I know I was 9 at the time. I think it might have been 94, 95 season. Now I live in a really small town just outside Cambridge. So I just say Cambridge to everyone just to make it easier. But because if I say where it is, no one will know. And we don't have a train here. And we used to have one bus that left the town to go into a major city every hour. So it's very difficult to go anywhere. My mum doesn't drive, and nor did my brother. My brother's 10 years older than me, and my mum doesn't drive. So to be able to go to London was foreign. But because we were so close to Ipswich, and Ipswich were a Premier League side, now Ipswich Town used to have a coach that took all of their fans to games. And my mum knew, I think there was a gentleman and his wife lived maybe around the corner, and they were Ipswich Town fans, and they got us on the coach. So I'm 9 years old, and you got to think about this. This is in the early 90s. You can imagine what it was like. I'm on there with all Ipswich Town fans, all of them, with my mum. I'm fully kitted out in Tottenham Hotspur stuff. I've got tracksuit bottoms on. I've got the picture. I will send you the picture. I've got a Tottenham Hotspur jacket on, the logo. I've got everything you can think of Tottenham. And I'm on this Ipswich Town bus, and they took me to the game. And I tell you what, they looked after me the whole day. They looked after me, made sure I was all right, knew where I was going. We'd never been to a game before. And growing up, in a single parent family, as a kid, you don't really understand how hard it is. When you get a bit older and you understand, like, full credit to my mum to even be able to do that for me was incredible. But it was Ipswich Town. I can remember that. I think I was in the Ipswich Town end as well. I think it was in the away end, and I'm almost certain I was. And I can remember them swearing a lot. And my mum tells a story all the time. Said, "Do you remember when you used to tell them Ipswich Town men to stop swearing? It's only a game." And she goes, "And now look at you and how you act watching it." And I think, yeah, I know. So there's 9-year-old me telling these Ipswich Town men to stop swearing while they're getting pumped by Tottenham while I'm sat in the away end in my full gear. So it must have been testing for them. But yeah, that was the first time I went. Been to White Hart Lane so many times. I really miss it, if I'm honest. I'm sure you probably miss Goodison Park as well. But yeah, that first, as I say, it just makes you smile really when you think about being able to go to. So when you walk in, didn't you? It's just brickwork everywhere. It's not like now where, like, if you've ever been to Tottenham Stadium, it is unbelievable. Like, you walk in, there's pizza here, there's everything you can think of. We have a brewery in there. We've got everything. And you walk in, it's like, oh my God, this luxury. But when you walked into Tottenham, it was just bricks. It was a little hole in the wall where you'd go and get your program. And there was like a couple other holes where you'd put a bet on. It stunk. It was horrible. But as soon as you walked up them steps and you just saw the White Hart Lane, the pitch, I was like, oh my God. And I'm actually trying to do a little project at the minute where I'm just asking people, send me your old White Hart Lane photos. I just want to like look back at it, and you do miss it, and I guess that naivety of a young boy going to your first game is nothing like it. I really hope I can do that for my daughter, but she hates football, so you never know. Yeah.
It's worth a try though, Gary.
Yeah,
I know she's a girl, but you got to try. You got to try. Yeah, it's like my cousin, my co-host on this. His 2 girls aren't into it. They're just not into it.
Well, she was never into wrestling, and then I took her to wrestling, and then taking her to my shows, and then she was like, "Dad, why is everybody like talking to you and all that?" And obviously, she has no idea. Or if I go to other people's shows, and there would be just so many people would come up to you like wrestlers or fans, and to her it was like, "Oh my God, this is something that my dad does, and everybody knows who he is." And I can see him on the internet and all these things. So she then became interested in it because it was something that Dad did. this isn't something that dad does. This is something that dad just screams at the TV about. So I can understand.
Definitely, definitely. I was going to tell you, I went to Goodison in '97, November of '97, and we were playing Spurs. And the two
Oh, wow.
scorers on that day, Ramon Vega and David Ginola, who obviously came to us later on in his career. He was finished by the time we got our hands on him. But you had him at a great time. But I can remember you were struggling at the time as well. We were in the shit. But yeah, you beat us 2-0 at Goodison. So yeah, Ramon Vega and David Ginola in that game.
Wow. It's weird. All right. I met David Ginola 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I met him and Dele Alli. I got a photo with both of them. I said to David that, my mum absolutely adored him when we were kids, obviously. And funny enough, I speak to Roman Vega a few times. I actually spoke to him today, and he actually follows me on Instagram. So it's crazy when you think of that, isn't it? Really, but yeah, what a time. David Ginola. They don't make players like that anymore. They're coached out of the game, and it's sad to see, really, because I mean, even Everton have had some wonderful players over the years, but you've had Gaza as well, but Gaza and people like that, they're coached out of the game now, and it's a real sad to see, really.
The players were better. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
I the way that you look at it now, I know it sound like an old git saying this, but it's just out from the back. And everyone plays it now, and that's just
it's very robotic, isn't it?
Yeah,
in
you
comparison.
just know where the ball. You know where the ball's going. It's just you do know where that ball's going a lot of the time. But I don't want to. I don't want to be like, oldie worldy. But I feel I have to be, and I'm 40 on April 20th. I'm aging myself, making myself sound older than I actually am. But
no, I'm the same. I'm 40, and we've seen some incredible players in our time, the 90s, 2000s, and it is a shame because it is being coached out of the game. It's being very robotic, and in an era that everything is available on this thing within seconds, and if you are bored, you can put that phone up and go on, I know, TikTok or YouTube or whatever it is. We need players that make you stop. We need players that make you go, oh, I need to watch this. Or when he gets it, you go, oh, wow, I need to stop what I'm doing, watch this guy. Or he gets you off your feet. That's not really happening in world football at the moment, is it? So it is difficult. And I really hope that, it's going to go around in a cycle as it does in any profession. And I hope that we start coming into that cycle where we want to find a special number 10, because I watch the MLS a lot and their league is very, very much built on their designated players, which is people they can have, kind of an unlimited salary for, is always the number 10. And they always try to build their squads around that player that gets you excited. Because at the end of the day, Stu, this is an entertainment. Mm-hmm. This is entertainment. It's, I think that some managers need to remember that ultimately.
Definitely. I was going to ask you as well, underrated players that you've got to see over the years at Spurs, and I know that's going to be hard to limit it to maybe 1, 2, or 3. But underrated players at Spurs that you loved, because I've got my Everton ones that I loved, of course. But yeah,
I mean, I've got people that I absolutely loved, but people that within the Tottenham will say, I don't know if people outside looking in, like Moussa Dembele, I think he was one of the greatest midfielders the Premier League's seen. And I don't think he gets anywhere near the credit for it either. He was just unbelievable as a footballer, and to watch him is unreal. So he's the one that sticks out to me instantly. I always think, I know he scores a lot, but I always felt like Jermaine Defoe was kind of underappreciated for a lot of the time as well. I think in an era where there were so many great goal scorers and so many good strikers, he was kind of underappreciated a little bit. If he was around now, my God, he'd be a £100 million player, I think. He just put the ball in the net. It was quick. He was, he was fast. He was dynamic. He wasn't tall, but he knew how to put the ball in the net, and I think he was a little bit underrated in some circles as well. You get older players, maybe Darren Anderton, I thought was very sort of underappreciated outside of Tottenham circles as well. I used to really like him. Who else? I guess it's hard to when you're on the spot, isn't it? Ledley King doesn't get enough credit either outside of Tottenham circles. He obviously only had one knee. That's the song for him.
Marred
But
by injury.
what a player! Unbelievable. If he had both, and he would never train. He couldn't train during the week. He'd just have to play games. And what a player he was for us. And I don't think he gets anywhere near the sort of the credit that he deserves outside of from a fan base point of view. I think professionals that were in there know it. But yeah, people like that. Obviously, I've got my favourites, but I think those are sort of a couple of names off the top of my head that I can think of that perhaps weren't appreciated outside of Tottenham circles.
Ledley King, when he got capped for England and he played centre half for England, he had some great showings for England.
Yeah.
But again, just marred by the injuries, unfortunately.
Absolutely, and such a great person as well. Has been around the club for years. He's still within the club now. Does wonderful things with the community. But as you say, injuries just killed him really, and unfortunately, as a football club, we seem to have that quite a lot. It's very frustrating. As a football club, it seems to have always gone on, and he is one of that. But yeah, what a player he was. Trying to think who else is. Who else would I say was underrated? Do you know what? I thought Stephen Carr is a right back. He was fantastic, very underrated as well. I think Stephen Carr was somebody as well. I thought he was a great player. I always felt like he gave everything. Good on the ball, was quick, decent in the tackle as well. So yeah, I think he was another one that's underrated. Trying to think of some obscure names that I can try to think off the top of my head.
Didn't Stephen Carr hit a rocket against United, if I remember rightly, top corner? Because I can remember a thunderbolt top corner from him.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
It was United, if memory serves.
Yeah, I mean the thunderbolt that everybody talks about is Danny Rose against Arsenal, isn't it? I mean, Danny Rose was fantastic as well. I think we really dropped a clanger when we didn't keep him within the club because he was very committed to the club as it was. But yeah, some fantastic goals. I think Stephen Martin. I'm not sure if it was against United. It's really hard when you have to sit and think about it. I guess when you're doing a historical stuff, you probably talk about these things a little bit more. Teenan, I can always get his Timo Tynan. I can never pronounce his name very well. He played left back, right back, very close with Gus Poyet. I think they managed to coach together. He was another one I think was very underrated as well. I used to really like. He was very good. Striker wise, because I was a forward growing up. You know, we always had really good forwards. We had Klinsmann, Sheringham, Ferdinand, Robbie Keane, Defoe, Pavlyuchenko. He was all right, I suppose. Peter Crouch, some guy called Harry Kane. He was decent. He probably went on to do a couple of decent things in Germany. But I mean, we've had some top players over the years. You know, as we said at the beginning, Gaza, Hoddle, Waddle.
Yeah. Hoddle, I see
Paul Walsh. We had Paul Walsh. He was at Everton as well.
Paul Walsh. I remember him doing Gillette Soccer Saturday once upon a time. He'd be on there. He'd be doing the punditry, Paul Walsh. Yeah.
He was a good player. I used to like Paul. That was when I first was in it. So it was him, Lineker, Mabbutt. Probably have had David Howes at the time, centre midfielder. We would have had Torsvet in goal, I reckon.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what they.
Torsvet was on the old FIFA game cover. He was on that. He was on it. 94. I'm going to say FIFA 94. He was on the cover.
You had Torsvet back then. Mabbutt, Justin Edinburgh, bless his heart. Chrissy Houghton, who I think actually should be in and around Tottenham now. Pat Vanden Hauwe, I think he was at Everton at one point as well. I think potentially. Yeah, Vinny Samways. I used to love watching Vinny Samways.
Well, Vinny scored in the Charity Shield against Blackburn for us. We had him. We had Vinny. Yeah.
Paul Allen, Naeem. Raw Fox. I remember Raw Fox. He used to do a cartwheel, and he used to like punch the air. And my brother used to love that, and he used to always want me to do it on a Sunday when I'd score. And I used to, I don't want it because I can do a cartwheel. Even now at 40, I can do it. And I'd be like, I don't want to do it. And he used to always ask me to do it. And if I'd score like a decent one, I'd throw one out there. But yeah, Raw Fox. Who else? Different names that we'd had over the years. Say Vinnie Samway, Mickey Hazard. He was a decent one as well. And I used to like Nicky Barmby, obviously someone with Everton as well, wasn't he? Came up to Everton. So
then he went across the park. Then he went across the park, and I wasn't happy. But we had that with Abel Xavier. Abel Xavier ended up going across. So yeah. Nick Barmby was decent on his day. I couldn't get over years later how young Nick Barmby was playing for you guys before he ended up at us and Middlesbrough and places. He was very young. He was a young man playing for Spurs, which I didn't realise.
He came back a couple of weeks ago actually to a game. Would have been, I think it was January, might have been December, January. Came to a game, and you know, when a sort of ex-players comes out and gets interviewed at halftime, he came out. He looks exactly the same. He don't look any different. Doesn't look any different. Which is
fountain of youth.
I could do crazy.
I could do with a bit of the fountain of youth myself, actually. But yeah, just what a litany of players there, and just I love nostalgia. I love getting guys on to talk about their memories and the players and all that. What about your first Tottenham kit? I think we've got to go there. What was the first kit you had?
I had them all. It would have been at the time. I can remember my first ones. Let's say we were in a single parent family. I think money was probably a bit tight. I can remember our pony kits we used to have in sort of the early 90s. I think the earliest memory of a kit is like it was a purple pony kit, and the pony was the brand, like your Nike or your Adidas. People watching it now that might be a little bit younger, not everything was made by Adidas and Nike in the Premier League. These were made by Pony, and it was a purple and blue stripe, and that would have been 95, 96. So I probably would have been about 10 when I probably got my first kit that I can remember. I would have had the home ones prior to that, but that's the first one that sticks out because we've got photos of us. So my brother stand in my bedroom at the time. I was sat on the bed with that on, and he was standing on the bed with the home one on, and we've got photos of that. So I think that's probably why that sort of stays in mind so much. I've got the 91 home kit would have been by Hummel, and that was when we won the FA Cup. So I definitely would have had that. I've still got it actually. Obviously it's an updated version. It wouldn't have been that fits me at 5 years old, but I've got an adult version of that now. But yeah, the Holston one, which is weird because that's beer, and it was on a children's shirt back in the time. We wouldn't get that now. So yeah, it would have been Holston as my first shirt, but the one I can remember would have been about 10 years old, would have been that purple away kit. I used to have all the goalkeeper kits, home and away goalkeeper, home and away. So obviously first and home away kit. I would have had the short socks. I'd have had everything. I had the wallpaper, Tottenham wallpaper. I had Tottenham bedding. I think I had a Tottenham lampshade at one point on the lamp. Bags. Your rucksack to go to school with, your boot bag for football. I'd have been Tottenham. Everything you could think of would have been Tottenham. Yeah, it's weird when you sort of think back, isn't it? Of all those things, probably everything I would have walked around in because I was very sporty as a kid, like very, very sporty. I was good at pretty much any sport that I played, but I excelled at football, and I was always in training. I was always playing and training session. So I need as much Tottenham gear to wear as I possibly could, really. And yeah, I had it all. It's and now I've got it all again as an adult.
It comes back around. It does. I tell you what, though, the kits aren't as good. The quality now, they were better. I like the way they were done. The sponsor was like padded. It's all vinyl. Now. It's nowhere near. paying a premium, Gary. We're paying a premium for this stuff now. It was very cost effective back in the day.
I don't know what it's like at Everton, but we've got a vintage section at Tottenham, and it's all the old kits. So like you've got most of the times where we've won like the Europa, or it had been the UEFA Cup in the time. You've got the 91 FA Cup final kit, and they've got random just different kits over the years, and they're all in there, and they're like 40 quid a go, and you see so many people buying them. I think because it's retro is very in at the moment, but equally I could get two of them for the price of one home kit, and I know that home kit's going to change next season. It's just huge sums of money, but you're right when you look at it, because it's different badges as well. Our badge has changed, so you look at the old badge on these as well, and you think, oh yeah, I'm going to wear that. And it's see so many of them kits, and as I say, in the wardrobe next to me here, I've got a number of them. There's a couple more I want to get that were kits I really liked as a kid, a longer sleeve ones as well. But yeah, looking back at some nice kits, yellow and blues and purples, and we had all sorts. And now it's just black or grey or
I do like the yellow one, the Total 91 that they brought back. Obviously, that design was 2004 into 2005, because I had the Brazil top, the Nike one. That's a nice nod, to back to like just over 20 years ago. But I do like the Barcelona. I like that bright one that they wore against Newcastle the other night, and they wore in the league phase as well.
No, there are some really nice kits around. Obviously, I think just feel they got a little bit lazy with a lot of designs, haven't they, nowadays? And it's all sort of, if you really look at it, Nike just have one or two set designs, and they're just different colors for different teams. But back then you would have just all sorts of different, wouldn't you? I mean, we had Kappa at one point, didn't we? And we've had Adidas, we had Pony, we've had obviously Nike for a number of years, and they all had just different designs. I can remember the Kappa ones being real tight fitting. It was real stretchy material. I didn't really like those ones, actually, because they were just a bit more uncomfortable. I mean, they're made for players, obviously, but yeah, we've had some good kits. We've had some terrible ones as well, but we've had some good ones over the years. I've probably had all of them over the years.
What I do like now is they're bringing out sponsorless shirts. Our kits for this season, you could have them, because I hate steak. Steak is ghastly on that kit. It looks awful. Obviously, we're going to have to come away from steak because of the betting thing. They're not allowed to have it. So I like these sponsorless ones now, but obviously it's got Castor on it and the badge, but there's no garish sponsor on the kit. I like them as well.
Tottenham fans would absolutely bite your hand off for that, because our front sponsor currently is red, and they don't want that on there. It's AIA, and it's red, and that's the biggest thing that everybody complains about every year. Why have we got red on our kit? They won't change it. So if that was available, like, Tottenham fans would be all over that, but it isn't available. We don't have that option, unfortunately. It's always you have to have them on there. I can remember one kit I had, and it was a Pony one, and they've re-brought it out, but it had a collar. I used to like it because I had Sheringham on the back, but it had like buttons, and they were like, I felt metal years ago when it came out. I guess it's a 95 maybe, but this top button always like came loose on the thread. I can remember almost weekly my mum having to sew it back on, because you could properly undo it and everything, but just back there, it weren't the greatest of quality. But I can remember that shirt was a nightmare because the buttons constantly came apart.
I just want to, in closing, I want to come away from Spurs. I know you're an avid football manager, championship manager guy. I had Premier Manager 96 on the Sega Mega Drive. I mean, that was the first one I did, but I also did the mail management games, the postal mail that used to be in shoot and match. I don't know if you ever did that. But
I didn't.
Sent your team off.
Mine was always Football Manager. I got into that in 96, so I'd have been 10, going on 11. But you had to have that on a PC, and PCs back then weren't very common as they are now. And you had to have a PC, and the guy next door to me had a PC, and he used to play it. And I can remember, I think it might have been 96. My grandma passed away, my mum's mum, and she left me some money, and we bought a computer, and I got the game. And at 96, like obviously I had a PlayStation and an Xbox and all that sort of stuff, but the obsession with football management sort of started coming from then. I've played that. I'm not going to say every day, but I would say probably 5 days out of 7 since 1997. So we are that's 30 years. And it's obviously changed into Football Manager, but I play it daily. It's on every single day in my household. I love management in terms of games anyway, but Football Manager for me is just, I absolutely love playing it. And that's partly why I got into coaching and managing myself, because I've always enjoyed it. And I think also why I went into the wrestling side of it as a promoter and booking, because I enjoy that aspect of stuff rather than the playing. As I say, I was a good player, but I was more interested in the other side of it. And those games have always helped. I could play it all the time. I mean, I've already played it today before I even came on here, and I'll probably play it before my next podcast anyway. So just fantastic games. The great thing is you can go back and play them now, because they're so small games in comparison. They're really easy to find, and looking back on them, you think, oh my God, how many hours I spent on this as a kid.
CM2 97, 98, a friend of ours had the disc. You could obviously load it up and it'd go onto the hard drive of the computer. So we had it. But you know what I used to like doing on there? Conning the database, adjusting the database. Yourself, I think it might have been like 200 million at the time. We were all at it, buying who we wanted. 200 million back then was a lot. But we used to go on there.
You could bet anyone. You could get anyone for that sort of price on there for 200 million. There used to be a cheat on Championship Manager. You used to make a bid, place the bid, come out, go back into the player, then go into like I think it was to go into the club listing, and then go back to the player, and then decrease it down to 0, and you'd get him for free. It was something like that you would confuse the system.
I could have done with knowing you back then. I didn't know that.
I did that a few times. Gabriel Batistuta would be one that I would do that for.
I used to get Robert Pires when he was at Mets. I used to always get Robert Pires in. I know you're not gonna like that, but he was brilliant. I used to get him from Mets. I used to be one of my go-tos. And
I used to go for Gabriel Batistuta. Gabriel Batistuta was the one at Tottenham. Back then, 96, 97, we weren't the best team, so it was difficult to try and find people that would want to come to you, but there was always a little cheat you could find. Now it's, there is an editor you could just go in and do anyway, but essentially it's cheating. But they've been fantastic games, and it helps on stuff like this because you can analyze the games on there. You can analyze how things are done, and then you can discuss it in we're in your normal setting, but you can also come onto podcasts like this and discuss stuff as well. And they do help, these games. And a lot of those games, Football Managers, the database is huge, so the actual proper clubs are using it. There is a very they did a documentary, and I can't remember, it was a Rangers manager, can't think of his name now, back in maybe 10, 15 years ago, well-known manager, I can't think of his name, but he said his son was playing the game, and his son was telling him, you got to go and get this lad from Barcelona out their youth academy. And he was like, what's his name? He's like, oh, it's Lionel Messi. He's 15 on there. And they knew about him at 15 because of the Football Manager game.
Blows your mind. Blows your mind. It's like, I've heard about this. And then people have ended up getting jobs off the back of it as well, which is just the world we live in now, isn't it?
I was on it. I was actually on it at one point when I was in an academy. Yeah. I was terrible on it. I was terrible on it.
You made it though. You made it on that.
I was on it for one update. So when it first came out, I was on it. Amazing. And then they brought the update out and I wasn't on it. And I was like, oh my God, I won this game. It's amazing. Yeah.
Gary, I'm going to get you on before the end of the season. Obviously, probably maybe in the last 3 or 4 games, just to see where Spurs are. But thank you for coming on, talking nostalgia, for your second appearance on Football Then and Now.
Thank you for having me. Obviously, thanks for having me. Hopefully, things go well for Everton and Tottenham can stay in the Premier League.
Thank you, man. Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.